Broadcasting live from an undisclosed location. This is the TCMMA podcast with your host, Chris Cross.
Whoa!
Dana White privilege.
Let's go, baby! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go, baby!
Dana White privilege. Privilege. Privilege.
We are live for UFC Atlantic City. Chris Weidman making his way to the octagon, to a standing ovation, really. The guy
Broadcasting live
born and
from
raised
an undisclosed location.
in Long Island, right? Fighting now in Atlantic City, New Jersey. He's 39 years old. So the crowd is fired up to see some good things from him. And he's already been checked in. Now he's getting introduced. And the crowd's going to roar once again. And they have every reason to be going crazy tonight because it's been nothing but action. I think we're looking at 6 or 7 finishes. And we got Gary Copeland as referee again. And he's had a couple early stoppages tonight. We've seen this guy, unless there's another guy that looks like him, we've seen this guy throughout the night. All right, so here we go. Chris Weidman versus Bruno Silva. Middleweight division fights just underway. And we all know how good Chris Weidman is, especially on the ground. But Bruno Silva's been in there with the best of them. And that's why I think Bruno Silva's going to win this fight. As we said all week in the lead-up. First 30 seconds gone, they're just kind of feeling each other out. No strikes yet. There's a jab by Silva and a left. Those are the first punches of the night for these two. And yeah, we've had some early finishes tonight. Some questionable finishes in the last fight. Cedric Dumas complained of an eye poke. The ref let it keep going, and he ended up getting TKO'd. So kind of an awkward finish to that fight leading into this one. Here comes Chris Weidman, opening up big. He lands a big left and a right. Now Bruno Silva responds with a left and a right. And you hope this continues. As long as Weidman doesn't get a hold of him, which he does now, we're going to see a lot of action. And I spoke too soon. Now, look at this. Chris Weidman pounding away with the knee. He's got Bruno Silva bent down, and he takes him down. Bruno Silva stands back up, and he's going to have good takedown defense, as you already know. .320 left, round 1. And this is what you feared in this type of fight, is Weidman's ability to control you. He's eventually going to try to pull him off the fence. He's got the single leg, and there it is, and he dumps him. And now he's looking to take the back. Remember, Bruno Silva's the guy that's been in there with Alex Pereira, fought him pretty well. Of course, Pereira won that fight, but Bruno Silva's had some good competition on all levels. And should be well prepared for the situation, but who could be? Chris Weidman at his best is very tough. And this is the second fight following the injury, not the first fight. So he's had a lot of time to get back into practice, to rehab his body, to get closer and closer to 100%, which is what it seems like he is now. This is the fight that will tell us a lot more about Weidman going forward. Because he is 39, man. The guy's getting older. But he's looking good right now. 19-4 in significant strikes, over a minute of control time, 1 takedown. And Bruno Silva with both gloves on the ground. That's to avoid any type of knee or head kick. He's considered a grounded opponent. And he's content with just staying here. But Weidman driving the knees. Switching a position more to the side. Bruno Silva tries to grab him. He can't. And this is good defensive work by Silva. He's not building up any points from the judges, but he's preventing himself from being put in a bad position. And that's all you can do here. But this is certainly what you didn't want if you're Bruno Silva. Because Chris Weidman could do this all day. And if he can't get out of it, it's going to be a long fight. 1 minute left now, round one. And the ref doing a good job of staying out of it. Because there's not a lot of action, but just enough to let him keep going. And while Bruno's down in all fours, Weidman's having a tough time lifting him and trying to get the takedown. He's got both hands down and he's got all his body weight forward. Now over 2.5 minutes of control time for Weidman. And this is going to be an easy round for him. Won't be surprised if we get more of this in a second. This is not what I expected in this fight, but Weidman is getting back to his true form here very clearly. 10 seconds left in a round. Weidman has this round easily, and he continues to land knees on the thigh of Bruno Silva, and that's going to do it, and the crowd loves it. 31-4 in significant strikes, 45-6 total strikes, 309 of control, 1 takedown, and Bruno Silva is getting dominated. So a little bit about where we're at tonight. As we're into the replay, we don't get to see what the coaches are saying. If we did, they'd be telling Chris Weidman, hey, keep doing what you're doing. Bruno Silva, you got to stay away from takedowns at all costs. And that was the game plan going in, but it's easier said than done against Weidman. But leading into this fight, we're 7-3 on the night. A big week, big weekend, really, in terms of the pick is something we need. The overall picks, right? We can get out of here at 9-4, even 8-5 would be a good week for us right now after 2 rough weeks in the last 2. And both fighters facing off here, staring each other down. The ref saying get back. And round 2 is underway. Forget telling these guys to get back. Just go ahead and kick off the round. It's all a waste of time. And a big right by Silva. Drops Weidman, who goes right in for the takedown. He can't get it. But Bruno Silva landed a big punch there to open the round. And I think that really slowed down Chris Weidman right now. You could tell. Eventually he's going to go back in for takedown and control time. That's where he's dominated. Bruno Silva wants to keep this fight standing where he doubles up Chris Weidman. So that's the game that's being played between these two. And Bruno Silva's got to have better takedown defense and the ability to get out once Weidman does get the head on the hip. 1 minute gone, round 2. And now Silva's starting to land those straight jabs and lefts. And when he connects, man, they're powerful. But that punch really slowed down Weidman in terms of coming in and being as aggressive. It's like he tasted the power from Bruno Silva, who lands a left and a right. And I'll tell you what, Weidman can't take many of those. Weidman, you better stop this trying to throw with Bruno, I'm trying to tell you. Yep, and Weidman goes back in, he gets shoved off. Big defense there by Silva. And Silva needs to land a few more. He lands another left there. And now Chris Weidman kind of getting out of dodge. But if Silva can bring this thing under 2 minutes and then get taken down, as long as he's dominating in the stand-up, he could still steal the round. Oh, an eye poke and a time. And this time the ref catches it. In the last fight they didn't, and it led to a finish. So they're trying to avoid that again at all costs. And here we go. Yep. Got him right with the thumb in the right eye. And Bruno Silva's wiping it. Looks like he's going to be fine. Well, I've been explaining like he hit him with the thumb right on the eye, but he didn't really push in or hit him in any way. Bruno Silva asking for something to be able to wipe his eye with. And really, any time they take is an advantage for Chris Weidman. It allows him to regather himself. Bruno Silva will start to take charge in terms of the stand-up. And now Chris Weidman gets a minute break. And again, that may have benefited him. Halfway through round 2. And we're back underway. Chris Weidman opens it up with a big leg kick. And man, when Silva really unloads that left hand, I mean, if he catches, it's going to be a problem. And here comes Weidman. He can't get it. And they're starting to get more slippery. So Bruno Silva able to defend those takedowns a little better. Weidman backs him up with a jab. Silva responds with one. Ooh, big left by Weidman. 145 left. He misses on a big leg kick. There you go. Big right and left for Bruno. Now he takes a jab. He lands a left. And he slips a second time. Man, keep your feet, Bruno. Let's go, baby. When both guys trade in jabs. Big jabs, too. Straight leg kick by Weidman. And they regather in the center of the octagon. Come on, let's keep these finishes going tonight now. We need a finish here. One way or the other. Ooh, let's go. Let's go, Bruno. Okay. And they're opposite stance fighters, right? Because Weidman standing righty, Silva standing lefty, and both guys just trading right now. They're really working the jabs, and Weidman's not scared to stand in there and throw. But is this the right decision? 30 seconds left in the round. Silva lands a big knee. Boy, these guys are really trading. Weidman lands a big right, man. Bruno kind of dances out of there. This round is close. Very close. Another big left by Weidman. Silva's covering up now. Look at this. Look at this. Oh, Weidman's finishing strong, man. He might get this round. He's going to get this round, yeah. Oh, and Bruno responds. And the round finishes with both guys swinging, and Silva grabs the back of Weidman's head, and they bring their foreheads together like, yeah, let's go. A lot of respect there. A lot of fighters wouldn't allow another opponent to touch them after the bell, but these guys are ready for a big round 3, and I think Chris Weidman stole that round. He's up 77-30 in significant strikes, and now the whole plan changes. And again, we're not seeing this because it's on commercial break, but in the corner, the plan for Bruno Silva now, if you're his corner, you're down to got to have a finish. And I always want to see if what the corners say, because if they're not telling them that, they're completely wrong. Chris Weidman's corner, you got to let him know, hey, you're up 2-0, but you still got to be aggressive. Just be very careful in the stand-up. If you can gain some control time here, you know, and as I say, like in football, run the ball, chew the clock if you got a big lead. And that's what Weidman has. And running the clock in the UFC is control time, riding your opponent. You know, you can still look for submissions. You can still look for ways to end the fight. But if you can keep yourself free from any problems. Control time is the way to go. Round 3 underway, first 10 seconds gone. First strike landed by Weidman. Weidman's been pretty close on some leg kicks tonight. And I got to say, I'm impressed with Weidman right now because I know Bruno Silva is a bad dude. And people weighing in here saying Weidman. And another eye poke. Here we go. And this one was worse. It looks like. All right, so the ref's saying both guys poked each other. I don't know. We'll have to see the replay on this. That's interesting. Silva's on his knees right now. And here we go. Boy, you got a jab there. No, Weidman did poke him. And the crowd doesn't like it. You got a pro New York / New Jersey crowd. Weidman's from New York, Long Island. And when you see the replay, all right, here we go. Oh, yeah, Silva did. Yeah, they both got poked. Wow. And that was weird because, all right. Yeah, the thumb did get Weidman for sure. And I think Bruno knows that he did that. Weidman pointed at him, and then Bruno went right down on his knees, saying he got poked too. So that's kind of a weird situation, but the bottom line now is the clock is just ticking. Now Silva wants something to wipe his eye, and the crowd's not liking this at all. At all. And Weidman's pacing back and forth. All right, a stiff warning there from the ref. And here comes Silva. He's coming out hot, left and right. Spinning leg kick misses. Leg kick by Weidman lands. And after the first round, which we saw about over 3 minutes of control time by Weidman, it's now been all stand-up. In a place where Weidman should be a big-time underdog, he's hanging tough with Silva. And now leading 82-37 in significant strikes, which is completely contrary to what the stats show coming into the fight, which is why you can't always believe the stats. Matchups are everything. Now Weidman keeping that left hand out, trying to keep Bruno back. Boy, and all that power that Silva had, it just seemed to fade. Especially the power that he had early in round 2. It just seemed to fade. It's like Weidman gaining that control time in round 1 has kind of taken the energy level away from Bruno Silva, which is surprising to see. And Weidman's still showing he's definitely capable of being the fighter he once was before. The injury and a big left drops. Bruno Silva, who covers up. And now Bruno's in trouble. And that's it. The ref stops it. And Bruno Silva saying he was eye poked. And here we go again. Here we go again. Crowd doesn't care. They love it, man. This is going to be a finish for Chris Weidman, but a second fight in a row where a guy said he was eye poked and the ref didn't stop it, and Bruno Silva's complaining now. And it definitely looks like something isn't right. And it's crazy that you're having these finishes and it's hard to enjoy them because other guys saying it was an eye poke. And Bruno Silva's pounding the ground. Chris Weidman's walking around, pumping his fist to the crowd, and he's pumped up. And the crowd loving this, man. Loving this. Definitely back in the New York native, Long Island native. And here we go. Oh! Yeah, he did get poked. Oh, my gosh. Yeah, he got poked, man. Oof. Okay. Yeah, he grabbed his eye and went right down again, which is hard to believe because it seemed like the last one he kind of, I guess, I don't want to say faked it because he got poked, but this would have been the third one. And he's complaining about an eye poke here, and the ref is letting it go again. And this poor ref's been in some tough situations tonight. And here we go. It did look like the finger got in there. And they're saying this could potentially be a no contest. And that's it. That's it, man. Wow. As you look at the replay again, Chris Weidman getting the big finish. And a little controversy here. And we're going to have to wait for this decision. But definitely a little controversy here. And they're talking here. The refs outside the cage are talking. They're looking at replays. And this is either going to be a finish for Chris Weidman or a no contest. And Bruno Silva showing a lot of emotion right now. He's yelling at his corner, look at my eye. Chris Weidman's walking around with his hands put up. And if this is a no contest, the people are going to be pissed. That's for sure. And Bruno Silva pleading that he was poked. A guy that does not like to get finished, obviously, who does? But he's pleading with the ref that, hey, I was poked in the eye. And very similar to Cedric Dumas in the previous fight. Hey, I got poked. The ref doesn't stop it. And that's it. And the ref could see that he was complaining of an eye poke. He went to step in, but Chris Weidman was punching. Then the ref stepped out and kind of like, okay, let's let this thing go. And then, bam, that's the way it turns out. Here we go. And the ref don't want to hear anything about it. TKO. Chris Weidman is going to get the win officially. So Chris Weidman gets a TKO. He's going to move to 16-7. And to me, he's back. He looked, even better than he did in the last fight. He's further and further away from the injury. Everything looks good. And Chris Weidman is back, man. He needed this win big time. Middleweight division. UFC Atlantic City. So that's where we're at. One fight done. It took a little while, but we got it. We got it wrapped up. Now, during the break, you're going to see different stories that took place throughout the week. I mean, Islam Makhachev and Dustin Poirier in the news. Other fighters in the news. You had the UFC settlement agreement take place in the from the lawsuits. We're going to get into that. You're just going to see a lot of different topics that took place throughout the week. Of course, Dana White commented on Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul. We'll get into that. Dana White nearly resigned over Joe Rogan. We'll get into that. So stay with us. And, of course, you get the fight prediction for a big welterweight fight. Next up, Vicente Luque versus Joaquin Buckley. Stay tuned for that. We'll be right back after this.
You're watching the TCMMA podcast.
Randy Couture is highly upset with the settlement, $335 million settlement that the UFC settled with former fighters. Couture saying, my concern is in the settlement. There's no injunctive relief, he said. We're not forcing the UFC to change the way they do business, which is what the class action set out to do. Now, he goes on to say fighters will, of course, make some money, but it didn't accomplish its goal of setting out to force the UFC to change the way it does business. And they're not going to, right? They keep the fighters under like 20, 25% of the entire revenue. And that's because the UFC has it's a business. They got a lot of expenses. They got fighter pay. They got hosting sites they got to pay for. They got personnel that they got to pay for. There's a whole lot of stuff that the UFC has to pay for. So all those expenses, minus the fighter expenses, the UFC needs to come out making some money as well. That's the bottom line. In order to do so, the fighters only make so much money, right? But Randy Couture's not happy about that. And we've talked about this in detail. I don't think the UFC is doing anything wrong. I think fighters make good money, and they're independent contractors with the ability to negotiate their salary. So you had the freedom to negotiate, and then you're going to be upset about what you freely negotiated later. Now, does the UFC have a monopsony? Probably. Because there's no other promotion that can really compete with the UFC. But we like it that way. We don't want another promotion compete with the UFC because we want to know who the best is. Like now you see Venom Page coming over. Michael Chandler came over a few years ago. And they're serious contenders, but they're not title worthy. They're not going to win the title because the UFC is just up and down much stronger. And you can take the best of the best from other promotions, and they're not going to win a title in the UFC more times than not. It'll happen eventually. But the UFC has a stronghold on all of MMA in terms of competition level. So then these fighters are forced into one promotion, and they feel like they don't have a fair playing field in terms of negotiating power. But I'm here to tell you, yes, they do. They're individuals with the ability to negotiate their contract. They don't have to say yes. They can go to another promotion and make more because they may be, especially the younger fighters, the fighters that aren't ranked, things like that, they may be more valuable money-wise in another division or promotion, but they stay with the UFC because they want the chance of glory to win the title. So, you know, that still is a personal choice. Don't be upset with making that decision after the fact. That's how I feel about it. Now, more on Dana White. Yeah, it's a Dana White show today, I guess. A lot of Dana White in the news.
Dana White privilege.
Yeah, he's got the privilege, baby. But Dana White saying he spoke to Mike Tyson's wife about the upcoming fight. And Dana White saying, I love Mike Tyson, and I'm not a fan of anybody fighting at our age. But he's a grown man. Obviously, he's going to do what he's going to do. I talked to his wife a couple of days ago, and he's taking it serious, and he's training for it. White told Lex Fridman, I believe, on the Lex Fridman podcast. I think Mike Tyson is one of the most unique guys who have crossed over. Any other fighters from this generation have no way of making money without fighting, and Mike Tyson has made a lot of money outside of fighting. Tyson still has that aura that you could be in a restaurant, you'd be like, holy cow, Mike Tyson is here. Yeah, no doubt about it. And there's a lot of talk about this fight. Is Mike Tyson going to actually take the fight serious? Right? Is he going to come in and just lay down for Jake Paul because the fix is in? I have a really hard time believing that, especially with Mike Tyson. Can you imagine even stepping to Mike Tyson and say, hey, we want you to take the fall here, fight well, but let Jake Paul win? I think Mike Tyson would probably go off on somebody if they even mentioned that. I can't see Mike Tyson disrespecting a sport for a paycheck. I just can't see it. So therefore, to me, this is a legitimate fight, and Mike Tyson's going to train his butt off, and I still think he loses because Jake Paul's like 27, 28, and he's 57, 58, you know, something like that. There's like a 30-year difference in the age. So that's going to be a major problem for Mike Tyson, unless he gets the KO in the first or second, maybe even third round. But longer than that, Tyson will begin to tire because he's older. It's just the way it is. It's part of humanity. You slow down as you get older, right? But I know a lot of people disagree with me on this topic, and it's all good. Islam Makhachev may fight Dustin Poirier for the title. And I saw the back and forth earlier in the week, and I'm like, how is this going to happen? You got Justin Gaethje's next in line, but then wait, he's got to still fight Max Holloway at UFC 300. What about Charles Oliveira and Arman Sarukian? Oh, they're fighting at 300. So right now, Dustin is big in the news. And if you're Dustin, you're chomping at the bit, right? You want to get this fight signed now before 300 happens and already have a fight scheduled. And he's going to get it potentially because he beat Benoit Saint Denis, even though he lost to Justin Gaethje. Somehow Gaethje is fighting Max Holloway, which is crazy. I can't believe Gaethje should have just waited a few months. You know? And this is what I believe it's Islam's coach says. Islam's a true professional, and he wanted to fight at a time that he's going to be ready to defend his title at the best ability that he can do. Mendes told MMA Mania. During Ramadan time, shortly thereafter, there's no way. Not going to happen. If it's Dustin, fantastic. If it's Justin, fantastic. But from my perspective, because who's available now? Who would be available sooner? Dustin. I believe that's the reason why this is going on. And that's wild to think, man. Dustin Poirier is going to get another shot at a title. And Islam Makhachev, you know, saying that he's a permanent contender, right? Permanent contender. Meaning he's lost for the title so many times, or a few times, that he's never going to win it. He's just a permanent contender. But that fight is going to be ridiculous. That fight is going to be absolutely ridiculous. And does Dustin Poirier have any chance to win? That's the question. Is the third time or fourth time the charm? Is this the one where he can get it done? The guy's 30-8. Just briefly looking over his numbers, 5.5 significant strikes per minute. The problem is in the takedown defense, 63%. That's going to be a problem in this fight. Benoit Saint Denis took down Poirier 3 times. Had 50 significant strikes at 28. He was dominating the fight until he got KO'd in the second round. He lost to Justin Gaethje by KO, trailed in significant strikes. Beat Michael Chandler, but trailed in significant strikes, got it done with the submission. So Dustin Poirier is getting beat, but he's finding ways to win. In the last 4 fights, he trailed in significant strikes. The last time he led in significant strikes was against Conor McGregor on July 10th, 2021. So it's been almost 4 years since he's had a fight where he's led in significant strikes. So even though Dustin is slowing down, he still finds himself in a position to contend for the title. Now, more on Dana White. He threatened to resign back in the day. So what happened is Joe Rogan on the JRE, this is years and years and years ago, used a word he shouldn't have used. And then he missed a UFC pay-per-view, and there was all this speculation that Joe Rogan was done. And behind the scenes, Dana White saying he was ready to resign. Saying, anybody who is with me has been with me. Knows, White told Lex Fridman. When you're with me, you're with me. It's a two-way street. It's not a one-way street. I'm not one of these guys that is going to roll over. It's like going through the vid back in the day. I wasn't laying off any of these people. Some of these people have been with me for over 20 years. We're going to lay them off? This place will burn before I would do that to my people. So, you know, Dana White, for all the stuff we hear about him, is a very dedicated person in terms of business and in terms of the people he employs. So say what you want. But he backed up Joe Rogan 100% and was willing to walk away from the sport if Joe Rogan wasn't allowed to continue. And that's impressive, you know. And Joe Rogan probably said something he shouldn't have said on his podcast. But the dude is speaking for 3 hours. And I'm not taking anything away from what he said, but he's speaking for 3 hours times 2,000. So you're going to say something someone disagrees with. And this was a big one. Use of a word he shouldn't have used. But at the same time, Dana White went to bat for him. And you got to respect it. I like that about Dana White. In the welterweight division at UFC Atlantic City, you got Vicente Luque coming in at 22-9, taking on Joaquin Buckley, who comes in at 17-6. Man, interesting fight. The Brazilian is 1 inch taller at 5'11". He's 32. Buckley's 29. Both guys in their prime, right? Say what you want. They're both in their prime age-wise. Both guys 76-inch reach. Vicente stands right-handed. Buckley stands left-handed. Vicente's got the advantage in the strike game. Maybe not necessarily power, because Buckley's got power, but in terms of accurate speed and activity, 5.2 per minute significant strikes for Vicente, just 4 per minute for Buckley. So that's like 15 over the course of 3 rounds, if you look at it like that. Buckley lands more takedowns, like 1 every other round. Vicente Luque lands like 1 every 3 rounds. But make no mistake, he can go to the ground if necessary. 62% takedown defense. See if Buckley can exploit that. Beat RDA in his last fight, but lost to Jeff Neal and Bilal Muhammad in the previous 2. So he did get back into the win column. And now he's getting fights like Buckley, which he could possibly win and start getting some momentum and going back up the ladder. That remains to be seen. Buckley, 65% takedown defense. So neither fighter great at defense. He beat Alex Morono by decision and Andre Fialho by KO in his last 2 fights. Boy, this is tricky here. This is tricky. And close in the odds. Vicente, like, a little bit of a favorite, but it's very close. I like Joaquin Buckley in this, man. And I know Vicente should win this fight, and Buckley's the underdog, but I like Joaquin Buckley to win this fight. I like this guy's heart, and I'm going to be rooting for him. So I'm kind of taking a chance here, really. But I just like him to win. Gut instinct. To move to 18-6. Look for the big KO in this one. Maybe the ground and pound to finish it. Welterweight division. UFC Atlantic City.
You're watching the TCMMA podcast. And now, back to your host, Chris Cross.
Welcome back. It's your boy Chris Cross. This is a TCMMA podcast. We are live. Getting closer and closer to Erin Blanchfield versus Manon Fiorot. It's a number 2 versus number 3 matchup. Women's flyweight division. The winner likely, well, I shouldn't even say likely, will fight for the women's flyweight title. Both of these fighters 6-0 in the UFC, and they're at a crossroads here. Only one of them is going to win this thing and set up a title fight. That's exciting. So, wild night, filled with controversy. A lot of KOs, a lot of finishes. But in the last 2 fights, both fighters that lost complained of an eye poke. And a quick update on the last fight, Chris Weidman actually didn't win by TKO, but instead he won by unanimous decision. They decided to go to the scorecards. Luckily for Weidman, that wouldn't matter because he was way up in the scorecards. And the result is he gets the victory either way. But it won't be the type of victory he wanted. It's not going to be the TKO finish, but nonetheless, a win is a win is a win if you're Chris Weidman. And I can't believe he went against Chris Weidman. We were rolling. We're still rolling tonight. But we're not going to get credit for the last fight, unfortunately. Just queuing up the picks, you can kind of see how the night is going. Let's get into it. There it is. Okay, that's what it looks like right now. Right, just first, overall, 72-50 on the year. We really struggled in the main event this year. No excuses. We're going to need Blanchfield to come through tonight. We're going to need Brendan Allen to come through next week so we can get to Pereira versus Hill, which I got Pereira winning, even though I love Jamal Hill. We got to be able to get to that fight 6-6 and hope Pereira can get the job done. But tonight, we started out strong with Colin Lawford, Jacob Malkoun, and Ibo Aslan all getting wins. Then Connor Matthews fell in the 4th fight of the night. But after that, we got Julio Arce and Verna Jandiroba. So all of a sudden, we're 5-1. It's like finally we're going to get this big night where we're like 11-2, 10-3, something like that. And then you get into the final 7, and we've dropped 3 of the last 5. We got Ruzi Boev, he won. Chitty, Bang Bang, and Joe Kawani won. But Bruno Silva, Bill Algeo, and Jamal Emmers all fell. And we need at least one of these next 2 to get 8 wins tonight. That would still be good enough, 8-5. Because I'm not really confident in this next pick with Joaquin Buckley, especially after Bruno Silva fell. I'm looking at both of these guys like they're outsiders in terms of ability to win these fights. Speaking of Silva and Buckley, and Silva fell. So it's like we're taking a chance. We need one of the 2 to come through, and now we're sitting here 0-1 in these 2 fights, hoping Joaquin Buckley can get the job done. And he's got a puncher's chance, but Vicente Luque, actually, I just learned it's not Luke, it's Luque. Is a tough and worthy fighter. Make no mistake about it. So that's kind of how the picks look tonight. Make sure you stick with us throughout the week. The main agenda here on the channel and on the podcast, wherever you watch your podcast, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, whatever. is you want to give you the previews and predictions leading up to fight night, or the pay-per-view event on Saturday nights. Then we got the live watch party, which we're watching now, and then tomorrow we'll get to the full event recap with all the highlights. So that's kind of how it goes down. And then you get lucky and get some breaking news like this week, and you'll see more of this in the next break. But the instant reaction to Hamza Chimaev versus Robert Whittaker, which, if you're new to the channel, Hamza is our guy, right? We talk about him probably equal, if not more, than every other fighter combined. So we finally get a fight for Hamza against Robert Whittaker. And it's important to talk about now because we got a welterweight fight coming up. We just had a middleweight fight. It makes sense. And this is the fight that Hamza needs to put him in title contention. For real, for real. Like, for real this time. And we can't wait for this fight to take place. Now, Joaquin Buckley and Vicente Luque, I think they're making their way to the octagon. I don't know because they're on a commercial break. And we're just kind of sitting around waiting for this fight to happen. And yeah, it says they're in fact walking out right now. But we're on commercial breaks. So we're not seeing those walkouts. So we likely got about 4 or 5 minutes before this fight takes place. So welterweight division, right? Why is this fight so key? Because Joaquin Buckley has an opportunity for the first time to get ranked. This is a guy that came into the UFC on fire, then had some setbacks, and now he finds himself in a big fight against a contender in Vicente Luque, who continues to fall loss after loss after loss, right? But is he going to fall so hard that he's going to be nearly out of the rankings? That's what makes this one tough to predict, and that's why this fight is basically even coming in. And Bruce Buffer is introducing them both right now. Just again, a quick outlook for this fight. Vicente Luque is 1 inch taller at 5'11". He's 32, not 40. He's just 32 years old. So it's hard to believe he's going to continue sliding this much. Joaquin Buckley, plenty of time. He's just 29. This guy's going to be around for another 4 or 5 years. And he's getting better and better. And that's why it's like every time you see him, you just assume he's going to get better. Both guys 76-inch reach. They're opposite stance fighters. Vicente Luque stands right-handed. Joaquin Buckley stands left-handed. Vicente Luque is a better striker. And heck, he can go to the ground too if he needs to. And both guys just over a takedown every 3 rounds. So that's kind of how it looks. Joaquin Buckley introduced. Vicente Luque getting introduced now. And this is one of these fights where this morning, every day, every Saturday, I get asked by the fan, are there any good fights? And a lot of times I say, the last fight's pretty good. This time, all 3 fights are really good. So let's cue it up. Let's cue it up. Vicente Luque versus Joaquin Buckley. Let's go. So here we go. Luque versus Buckley, UFC Atlantic City, welterweight division, an opportunity for Buckley to get ranked. This fight is underway. First 5 seconds gone. And Buckley rushes in looking for a big KO. He didn't get it, though. And we've seen that, especially in his UFC debut. Boy, these guys are 1 inch apart, but Buckley fights so low to the ground. It looks like a 6'2" Vicente Luque and a 5'9" Joaquin Buckley. It's crazy. Nice leg kick by Petit Buck. I don't know. Can we call Joaquin Buckley Buck? I like Buck. Brazilian versus American. And both guys trying to land leg kicks up high. And Buckley responds to Luque's leg kick. It's 4-4 in significant strikes. All 4 for Luque coming via the leg kick. Got Joaquin landing 1 head strike so far, but we're just getting started, honestly. Some big punches by Joaquin Buckley coming in. And to me, Vicente Luque looks a little timid. And I think he's having a hard time believing he's in a situation like this, where he's fighting a non-contender. When was the last time that happened? I'll tell you what, Vicente better be careful after them leg kicks, because Buckley is countering impressively. 2 minutes gone. 8-8 in significant strikes, very close. From what I'm seeing right now, Buckley's moving really well. It's forcing Vicente Luque to go side to side, which he doesn't want to do, and switch his stance, which he also doesn't want to do. And anytime you got opposite stance fighters, which means a righty versus a lefty, the lead legs are always so close together, like they're almost about to step on each other. Makes the jabs very, very difficult. Makes the power punches even more difficult because those arms are so far away. And Vicente lands a leg kick but almost falls. Come on, Buck, this is your chance, man. Let's go. You got to be aggressive, baby. Under 2 minutes left here, round one. And I'm glad we got Keith Peterson back in the octagon, because there's been some controversial fights. And if you want anyone in there after 2 in a row like that, it's Keith Peterson. AKA no nonsense, baby. Final 90 seconds, round one. Couple big shots, nothing serious. It's 14-14 in significant strikes, so very tactical so far. Love to see Buckley finish this last minute or two very strongly. He needs to take this round. Gosh, he's moving well. It's really causing problems for Vicente, who wants to stand in one spot and just throw. Can't do that with Buckley. This guy's going to be bouncing around, moving left to right, in and out. Buckley goes down. He gets back to his feet quickly. 50 seconds left, round one. Let's go, Buck. Let's go, Buck. And a lot of leg kicks in this fight so far. Not a problem for either fighter on the defensive end, but they're having a hard time finding their range as Vicente lands one to the stomach. 20 seconds left. Ooh, Buckley is so quick, man. Now Vicente's going to try to tie him up. Yeah, and he's got an advantage here. You can see Buckley really struggling. Luckily, the tap already happened. So this fight's going to go to the end of round one, but that might be the angle for Vicente Luque going forward, because Buckley was going to be in a little bit of trouble there. So 17-16, Vicente Luque in significant strikes. 7-5, Buckley in head strikes. And it's hard to, I mean, if we go to a decision and we get 2 split rounds in the second and third, we could see a split decision, because that round was so close that you got to score it one way or the other, right? Someone gets the round, someone doesn't. And that's one of them rounds it's very difficult to score. Now, if you Joaquin Buckley's corner, and we're in a commercial break, so we're not seeing this, but if you're his corner, you're saying be weary of those takedowns, because now Vicente's feel like, okay, I got a little success at the end of round one. He didn't quite get the takedown, but he tied him up. It was looking like he was headed toward a takedown, and the round ended. So Vicente's coming back for that, right? He's hungry for that. If you're Luque's corner, you're telling him to be very aggressive with the takedowns. You know, you don't need to get caught up just chasing this guy around the octagon. Shoot him for the takedown and control this fight. So we'll see how this plays out. But those are the strategies I would use coaching both guys on opposite ends. Round 2 is underway. Ooh. Let's go, Buck. Flying knee lands. Not a big one, but he did catch him for Buckley. I love the movement from Buckley. It's really causing Luque problems. Up and down, bouncy. Once in a while, he'll land a big combination, which will force Luque to back off, just like right there. First minute gone, and Buckley starting out strong. Lands a right. And we've had some long weeks, last 5 or 6 weeks, with just a sporadic and very few finishes in the big three while we're live on the watch party. So we're no stranger to calling these fights throughout a decision. I mean, it's just, we've kind of grown accustomed to it. And when you peek ahead into a big women's flyweight fight, you're going to have 2 tough competitors, and we might be having to prepare to go 5 rounds. We'll see. And Buckley's landing some big shots now. Shoves Luque off. You just got to be careful, because Luque's going to go in for the takedown eventually, I think. But Buckley building a little bit of a lead. He's having a good round so far. Up 30-28 in significant strikes. Remember, he was down 1 last round, so he's up 3 here in round 2. Ooh, nice leg kick. Here comes the takedown attempt. Yep. And he pulls Buckley down, but Buckley's on top right now. Vicente's holding on, and this is when you just pound away. This is when you just pound away if you're Buckley. You're on top. Don't get caught up in these positions. There he goes, and he's opening up now. Vicente covering up a little bit, and Buckley's opening up. Let's go, Buck. Let's go, Buck. Yeah, let's go, Buck. Just keep swinging, baby. Don't let him get any position. Vicente's covering up. Boy, and Buckley's in a good position. He's on both knees, postured up, now standing up and just pounding away on top. And Luque's just covering up right now. And how long can the ref let this go? They're not big, but he's not fighting back. Look at this. Look at this, Buck. Look at this, Buck. Come on, Buck. Come on, Buck. Stop. Yes. 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 Joaquin Buckley gets the KO, and he's officially a ranked fighter. And is he breaking down? Yeah, he is. Yeah, and he's shedding some tears. And you could just tell, listen, man, when you're talking about the welterweight and lightweight divisions, it's a feat. It's a big feat just to get ranked. And that's what Joaquin just did. And he's only, he's in his 20s, man. I'm telling you. Just keep an eye out for this guy. These are the type of guys that can go on to win titles one day. You know, you have big fights at 26, 27. He's now 29, right? 28, 29. So he's definitely hitting his prime form right now. And he just dominated Vicente Luque down the stretch, 54-28. And it was Luque who pulled him down. T-Buck wound up on top on his knees and just throwing with both hands, using his knees to keep the balance, and it's impressive. And Luque did not have an answer. And Keith Peterson stops his welterweight fight. Joaquin Buckley, or Joaquin Buckley, to say it the right way, is officially going to be a ranked fighter after this fight. Probably 11 or 12 in this division. So that'll do it. This fight went down. Welterweight division. UFC Atlantic City. So just an impressive performance for him. Wow. And just as we were ready to go to another decision, right? Because tonight's been all finishes. But in the big three, we've been unlucky and had a lot of decisions. So we'll take that one. That's a big finish for Joaquin Buckley. I got to work on this. Joaquin Buckley. And now we got one fight left. So we're going to get to the break. before we get to Erin Blanchfield, Manon Fiorot. You'll see the prediction during the break, but a wild week with Robert Whittaker and Hamza getting announced. And let's get into that right now. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after this.
You're watching the TCMMA podcast.
Islam Makhachev may fight Dustin Poirier for the title. And I saw the back and forth earlier in the week, and I'm like, how's this going to happen? You got Justin Gaethje's next in line, but then wait, he's got to still fight Max Holloway at UFC 300. What about Charles Oliveira and Arman Sarukian? Oh, they're fighting at 300. So right now, Dustin is big in the news. And if you're Dustin, you're chomping at the bit, right? You want to get this fight signed now before 300 happens and already have a fight scheduled. And he's going to get it potentially because he beat Benoit Saint-Denis, even though he lost to Justin Gaethje. Somehow Gaethje is fighting Max Holloway, which is crazy. I can't believe Gaethje should have just waited a few months. You know? And this is what I believe it's Islam's coach says. Islam's a true professional, and he wanted to fight at a time that he's going to be ready to defend his title at the best ability that he can do, Mendes told MMA Mania. During Ramadan time, shortly thereafter, there's no way. Not going to happen. If it's Dustin, fantastic. If it's Justin, fantastic. But from my perspective, because who's available now? Who would be available sooner? Dustin. I believe that's the reason why this is going on. And that's wild to think, man. Dustin Poirier is going to get another shot at a title. And Islam Makhachev, you know, saying that he's a permanent contender, right? Permanent contender. Meaning he's lost for the title so many times, or a few times, that he's never going to win it. He's just a permanent contender. But that fight is going to be ridiculous. That fight is going to be absolutely ridiculous. And does Dustin Poirier have any chance to win? That's the question. Is the third time or fourth time the charm? Is this the one where he can get it done? The guy's 30-8. Just briefly looking over his numbers, 5.5 significant strikes per minute. The problem is in the takedown defense, 63%. That's going to be a problem in this fight. Benoit Saint-Denis took down Poirier 3 times. Had 50 significant strikes at 28. He was dominating the fight until he got KO'd in the second round. He lost to Justin Gaethje by KO, trailed in significant strikes. Beat Michael Chandler, but trailed in significant strikes, got it done with the submission. So Dustin Poirier is getting beat, but he's finding ways to win. In the last 4 fights, he trailed in significant strikes. The last time he led in significant strikes was against Conor McGregor on July 10th, 2021. So it's been almost 4 years since he's had a fight where he's led in significant strikes. So even though Dustin is slowing down, he still finds himself in a position to contend for the title. Chimaev will take on Robert Whittaker in the main event. You're hearing this right? At UFC Saudi Arabia. And you can see the smile on my face. Because again, this was totally unexpected. I get up this morning, I'm sipping on my morning coffee, and boom, the phone dings, everyone in the house is sleeping, and I let out a big scream. Everybody's like, what's going on? Hamza Chimaev finally has a fight. Oh my goodness. Oh, this is fantastic.
Hamza Chimaev!
And we're just finding out about this first thing this morning, so, you know, those are the facts. That's all we really need to know, right?
Oh my God, bro.
It's just incredible. It's just incredible because we've been waiting for this for a long time. And the fact is Hamza deserves it. And now nobody can say anything because Robert Whittaker is a legitimate middleweight fighter. Legitimate. This isn't Kamaru Usman. This isn't Gerald Meerschaert. He's one of the best in the division, a former champ. And what's the date exactly? Let me pull this up again. I think it's June 22nd, if I'm not mistaken. But man, this is just incredible. Yep, June 22nd. My birthday is June 19th, so that'll be birthday week. That's exciting as well. Oh my goodness. Oh, and it's a fight night. I don't have to worry about the pay-per-view or anything. All for free on ABC. Wow. Wow. Hamza's fighting in prime time. He wins this, he's fighting for the title. And guess what? He leads in all the stats. Hamza 5.72 significant strikes per minute. Whitaker 4.6. But Whitaker packs a punch, so you got to be careful with him. His takedown average basically non-existent. He might get one every 3 rounds, so maybe he'll get 1 or 2 in this fight. But guess what? Hamza 100% takedown defense. He lands on average 4 takedowns every 3 rounds. So you figure he's going to get 5 or 6 takedowns in this fight, but Robert Whitaker has good takedown defense as well, 82%. So Hamza gets 3 or 4 takedowns in this fight, and guess what? It's going to be a 5-rounder. So all the talk of Hamza not being able to go 5 rounds and all that, that'll be put to bed as well. And this is just unbelievable. Unbelievable. And I think if you're Hamza, you just go in there and you try to get the first round KO. Forget the 5 rounds. Let's not even discuss that. Go in there and get the KO as quick as possible. Now, let's just marinate on this for a second. Here's a dude list. Just catching you up with the show if this is your first time, because a lot of people are going to be jumping in today on this topic. A lot of new listeners today for sure. This is a dude list. These are our favorite fighters. And you can mix in pound for pound in there a little bit, but not really, because if someone asks you on the street, who's your favorite fighters? I'm going to say number 1, Hamza Chimaev. I believe he beats everybody. John Jones, same thing. Islam Makhachev, pretty much the same thing. Alex Pereira. Okay, now we're getting down a little bit. Pretty much beats anybody but Hamza, right? If they fight for light heavyweight. That's how I would feel about it, right? That's how I got to look at it. Sean O'Malley moved up to the top 5 recently. Leon Edwards, Charles Oliveira, Jamal Hill. And then Shavkat and Adesanya up in the top 10. So the only better fight for Hamza here would be Adesanya. But Adesanya's waiting in the wings as well. So by the time Hamza and Whitaker fight, we'll know a lot more about this division. For sure. There should be some things happening with Dricus and Adesanya. What's Sean Strickland doing? So we'll know a lot more about this division by the time Hamza fights, or at least other fights that are going to be set up. But that there is the do list. So just an incredible day, and normally we would do the full fight prediction for you. We haven't even gone that far yet. I mean, literally woke up this morning and saw this fight on deck, and I just couldn't believe it. I'm just like, I'm in awe, because Dana White did this totally unexpectedly. I mean, just completely unexpected this morning. I mean, I'm just drinking the morning coffee.
Whoa!
That's kind of what it sounded like, really. Thank you, Dana White and company. Certainly made for a great day. And a lot of you will see this later in the day probably, because you're not even awake yet. But it's absolutely incredible. Hamza Chimaev versus Robert Whitaker. And what's Whitaker ranked right now in this division? Let me look this up real quick too. It's got to be 2 or 3 in the division. And this is going to be a major step up for Hamza. Major step up. So middleweight rankings, of course, Dricus champion. Sean Strickland 1. Adesanya 2. Robert Whitaker 3. Hamza's down at number 11. Dang. How do you drop from... Well, it is what it is. It don't really matter. Because Hamza wins this, he's ranked number 3. And by that time, the title between Dricus and Adesanya should be on the line. And then Hamza gets the winner take all. Who knows who Sean Strickland is fighting? So just an incredible day to be a UFC fan, because we've been waiting for this for such a long time. And it's like, yeah, he's got the visa thing. Then you got the Ramadan thing, and then he had the injury thing. You know, you got all these things that are going on that you just want to know when the next fight is. And it could be months and months away like it is now, because what is it, March? And he's not fighting until June. So 3 months from now, 90 days. And this is just a kickoff party. This is just a launching pad right now. Because there's a lot more to come on Hamza.
Hamza Chimaev!
But just a wild morning.
Oh my God, bro.
And of course, the excitement going along with that.
Yes! Yes!
Yeah, man. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And I wish more of you were awake to enjoy this with us, because we're certainly enjoying this. We're going to enjoy this all day. As soon as the podcast is over, I'm going to get to the prediction. But just an incredible day. And of course, we got the fights this weekend. I was getting ready to do those predictions this morning. I'm sure I'll eventually get to that, but the podcast had to take over. We didn't even post yesterday's podcast yet on the other platforms. We're going to do that first thing this morning. And everything just got derailed. Completely derailed. And you know what? It's okay. Because I'm on spring break this week. I'm off. And I'm glad that this happened this week. We're willing to stop everything. And I mean everything. For Hamza Chimaev. In the women's flyweight division at UFC Atlantic City, your main event. It's a good one. Erin Blanchfield takes on Manon Fiorot. Blanchfield 12-1, Fiorot 11-1. Oh my goodness. Fiorot 3 inches taller, 5'7". She's 34. Blanchfield just 24. Interesting. Blanchfield 1 inch reach advantage. They both stand right-handed. They're both right at roughly 6 significant strikes per minute. There's a little difference there, but it's going to be very close in the striking. Blanchfield lands like a takedown per round. Fiorot just over a takedown every 2 rounds. So, advantage Blanchfield in that department. Now, Blanchfield, 83% takedown defense. That's going to be important here. She's coming off basically 6 straight wins since entering the UFC, most recently against Tyler Santos by decision, 61-55 in significant strikes, and she just continues to rise. Also beating Jessica Andrade, Molly McCann, JJ Aldrich on the lead up to this interesting fight against the beast, Manon Fiorot, who's won 6 straight as well against Rose Namajunas. Caitlin Seminara, both by decision, right? Namajunas actually outstruck her 60-58, so that's a little concerning, but she still pulled out the victory. So this is a very close fight, but I got to lean with Erin Blanchfield here. This strike gain's pretty close, and Blanchfield has an advantage with the takedowns. Fiorot's good in that department as well, if need be, with a 91% takedown defense. So that's going to be the tough part, but Blanchfield will still land takedowns. I think it's going to go 5 rounds, honestly, and she's going to grind out a victory, 48-47, by unanimous decision, in my opinion. The women's flyweight division, UFC Atlantic City.
You're watching the TCMMA podcast. And now, back to your host, Chris Cross.
Manon Fiorot already in the octagon now. And Erin Blanchfield making the walk to loud yells and screams because she's the hometown favorite in this one. And it should be an exciting one. Number 2 versus number 3, women's flyweight division. Winner take all to fight for the belt. And the winner of this cannot be denied by Alexa Grasso, who's got to be watching this right now. I mean, she just has to be. The champion has got to be watching this fight because you got to be scouting. I mean, it's guaranteed the winner of this fight is fighting for the belt. Shevchenko's not getting a third chance before the winner of this one gets their opportunity. Erin Blanchfield, 9-fight win streak, longest active win streak in the UFC flyweight division. But Fiorot also has 6 wins in this division as well. They're both 6-0 in the UFC, so it's not going to be an easy fight. And is there any chance we're going to get a finish here? Well, this is going to be a long 5-round fight. Now, Manon Fiorot is tall. She's 5'7" compared to the 5'4" Blanchfield, but Fiorot seems to be taller than all her opponents. Certainly the toughest test of both fighters' careers up until this point. For Fiorot, the time is now. I mean, she's 34 years old. Erin Blanchfield's going to be around for a long time. She's just 24. She has not even reached her prime yet. So imagine she wins this fight and then fights for the belt. Imagine that. That's very possible at 25 years old. And Bruce Buffer getting the crowd all fired up. Everyone's on their feet. You had a Chris Weidman win earlier. You had a Joaquin Buckley just TKO Vicente Luque, who was forced to cover up and just take it. As far as the picks tonight, we're 8-5 right now. So it's going to be a solid night. Or 8-4, excuse me. It's going to be a solid night either way. 8-5, 9-4, whatever. But the big deal for us is we've really struggled in the main events this year. 4-6 on the year. This is a must-win. Especially when we're taking Brendan Allen next week, and he lost to Chris Curtis the first time around. So a lot at stake in this one. Both fighters getting introduced. Well, I shouldn't say introduced yet because Bruce Buffer's dancing around the center of the octagon, pumping the fist, and it's time, is what he's saying. It's time. This thing's about to be on and popping. So Fiorot 11-1, Blanchfield 12-1. And I know the women don't get a lot of credit a lot of times when they're fighting at the top. This is why during the tournament, you're getting back-to-back weeks with women fighters at the top of the division, right? Rose Namajunas last week. Now you get these two. But make no mistake, this is a huge, huge fight for both of these fighters. Huge fight. Manon Fiorot now officially introduced. Now it's time for Erin Blanchfield, and the crowd's going to get loud for this one because she's fighting out of Elmwood Park, New Jersey. This thing is in Atlantic City, New Jersey. She's 4-0 as the favorite. And I'd like to know who these two fighters have lost against. I guess it doesn't matter because they've won 6 straight in the UFC. Like both fighters are just tick, 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 climbing to the top. And now you have this breaking point for both these two. And both fighters will come to the center. They're both bouncing around like ready to fight. Now they'll come to the center and get further instructions. But a big one here. So let's set the table once again. Erin Blanchfield, number 2, women's flyweight division. Manon Fiorot, number 3, women's flyweight division. Winner take all to fight for the belt. And this fight is just seconds away from getting started. And here we go. It's on. And we're ready for 25 minutes, should it go that far. But hopefully we can get fireworks because it's been fireworks all night. And these two don't give you the idea that they're necessarily in it for a decision. Crowd chanting USA very loudly, as you'd expect in America, especially New Jersey. First 30 seconds gone. And there's no introduction to this fight in terms of a slow pace at the beginning. It's already 7-3 Fiorot. Who's kind of just tapping at Blanchfield with the jab. And they're both so tough. It's like, okay, if one of them's going to fall, it's likely by decision. It's hard to see one of these two getting finished because they're such tough outs, and that's why they've won 6 straight. Both of them. Both are undefeated in the UFC. Forget the one loss. Oh, and Fiorot gets into Blanchfield and takes her down very easily. Oh, and now Fiorot's stuck. Blanchfield's got the guillotine from the ground. And then Fiorot kind of spins, and she's still stuck in it, trying to fight the hands now, but Erin Blanchfield stands her up. And boy, Fiorot got the takedown, but she ended up in a bad position. Look at this. And Blanchfield's trying to go for the finish. The crowd's loving it. They're getting pumped up. And Fiorot's trying to pull away. If Blanchfield can get it locked in, Fiorot's shaking her head saying, no, I'm good. And a tough moment right now for Fiorot. I just can't see Blanchfield holding on to this that long, but she's got the legs tied up, and now she lets that go. And USA chants her back. And Fiorot's trying to pull out of it. She can't. And she finally does. And a tough moment there for Fiorot, who looked good for a second and just wound up in a bad position. 2:50 left in round 1. And Blanchfield lands a big elbow on the way out. And you look at Blanchfield and you're like, I don't see a championship type fighter here, but she's so tough, man. And Fiorot lands up right and the left. And Fiorot definitely has a reach advantage. She's standing left-handed. Blanchfield standing right. And Blanchfield's got that kickboxing style where she likes to bring that lead leg up, even if she's not going to use it. Kind of lets her opponent know that it can be used at any time. Tough thing for Blanchfield is every time she comes in, she's taking strikes. Fiorot's got the reach advantage and the height. She's punching downward. And she leads 21-13 in significant strikes. Blanchfield clinches her up. Fiorot swings out of it. 1:15 left in round 1. And kind of at a pause there because I'm just thinking, like, Blanchfield might need to go in for another, even though she didn't get the takedown, might need some clinch time here. Because on the feet, it just seems like Fiorot's got the advantage. She's landing first. Blanchfield's got to be calculated, and when she comes in, see, she takes a right and a left. And Fiorot just looking very comfortable in the stand-up. Head strikes 23-13 for Fiorot. Ooh, some big shots by Blanchfield taken by Fiorot. Now both fighters clinched up. Fiorot spins her around. She got Blanchfield backed up against the fence. But the trick here is that Blanchfield is shorter and lower to the ground. And that tends to be an advantage in these situations because you're already, for leverage purposes, trying to get low to prevent your opponent from moving you. And Blanchfield has a 3-inch advantage in the clinch because she's shorter. And that'll do it for round 1. And even though you had a submission attempt there for Blanchfield, she wasn't able to finish it. Fiorot's out of trouble in about 45 seconds. And the rest of the round, she won on the feet. So you got to give that one to Fiorot. So you might as well just, boom, check it off. Manon Fiorot won round 1. She's up 30-23 in significant strikes, but it's really the head strikes, 25-17. That gives it that round. Boom, and you see the takedown, and Fiorot's immediately stuck for about 45 seconds via the guillotine. And that might be enough for Fiorot to say, you know what, I don't know what I was thinking. Why am I going for a takedown when I'm dominating on the feet? And that's probably what her corner is telling her. Don't get caught in bad positions. Round 2 underway. Blanchfield backs her up with a lead leg kick. Remember, that lead leg is just bouncing up and down with the knee out in front, especially when they get set. Not when they're moving side to side, but when they get set, Blanchfield is lifting that knee, and now she lands a right leg kick up top. Blanchfield starting out more aggressive here. That's what she's got to do. She's got to be the first one to land, which isn't easy. Oh, and Blanchfield gets a takedown. Fiorot flips it. Oh, when they get back to their feet. And I was going to say that's where Fiorot might want to be, is when she's on top, posturing up. But Blanchfield is so quick, such a problem on the ground. And Fiorot just says, like her corner should have told her, stay on the feet if you can at all times. Now Blanchfield looking to get a takedown. She's got the arms locked around. But Manon Fiorot is not going to let it happen again. And they swing out of it. 90 seconds gone, round 2. And that advantage that Manon had in the first round, with the keeping the distance, the jabs, combinations, looking great on the feet. It just seems like she's slowing down a little bit. Not a lot, just a little bit. But it's enough for Erin Blanchfield to get in there without worrying about being hit every time she comes in. And they clinch up again. And they swing out of it again. And now it just seems like we're going to see a close fight for as long as this fight goes. Now all of a sudden Erin's coming in and she's taking punches again. So Manon's starting to feel better on the feet here in round 2, midway through. And as this fight goes on, how will the stamina of both fighters, not really used to being in this position, right, against an equal opponent and having to go 5 rounds? Because number one, when your opponent's equal, you're going to expend a lot more energy than if you're just grinding out a victory against somebody. And the pace is fast. I mean, Manon Fiorot is going to be over 50 significant strikes. Blanchfield will probably approach 50 by the end of the round. And they're just moving and striking at a rapid pace. They've thrown over 235 significant strikes combined. Of course, they only landed like 80 of those, about 33%, but they're throwing. And if you're Fiorot now, you want to be throwing every 3 to 4 seconds. Don't allow Blanchfield to get you into clinch, attempt to take down, nothing like that. Every time you tap her, Blanchfield has to back off. Because there's a point, clearly, where Blanchfield enters the space of Fiorot where she's going to take punches, but her reach isn't long enough to land them. So Fiorot has about a foot of space advantage there. Then when Blanchfield comes in, you got to tap, tap, tap. Big leg kick missed by Fiorot. Final 20 seconds, round 2. And I'd lean towards Blanchfield in round 2. Big right by Fior, making it difficult. And a leg kick and another right by Fior. And this round comes to an end. So pretty even round. So 1 round for Fior. Round 2, excuse me. Hey, we're in the wee hours of the night, man. They got to have these late UFCs because of the NCAA or college basketball. It is what it is. But we're digging into the wee hours of the night. Now it's 1:06 a.m. Gotta love it. Round 3 is on deck. Fior leads 57-49 in significant strikes. Head strikes 45-32 for Fior. So Fior is leading this fight in terms of the numbers. It really just comes down to how the judges view round 2. And I think if it's close, they may lean towards Blanchfield. Because this doesn't seem like a fight where someone's up 2 rounds to none. And we're still at a time when both fighters are still feeling comfortable. It's round 3. I mean, every fight's a 3-round fight. It's rounds 4 and 5 that will get very interesting should it go that far. And a quick start to round 3 as you'd expect. And both fighters really comfortable in the stand-up game. I mean, despite Fior having the reach advantage, and it just seems like she's landing more in certain occasions. She's only up by 3 significant strikes. I mean, it's virtually even. Blanchfield comes in for the takedown. She gets thrown to the side. And it's kind of the same thing over and over again. I mean, Blanchfield's coming in with that front leg up in the air, kind of bouncing like she's going to use it. And then when she does come in close enough, boom, she gets hit with a jab by Fior. And then sometimes she lands too. Or sometimes she gets hit with a jab and she backs off. But still managing to keep this fight within reach, very close. But 52-40 head strikes for Fior. And that's been the difference so far. Blanchfield right now just needs something to happen. She needs a big punch, leg kick, something to just turn this her way and get the crowd into it. That's what you need. You got the home, you're fighting out of New Jersey. You're in New Jersey right now in a main event. And the crowd is not behind Erin Blanchfield. Not because they don't want to be. There's just no reason to be right now. 68-63 Fior in significant strikes. 56-42 head strikes, though. Midway through the fight, 2:30 left in round 3, and if you're Blanchfield, the time is now. You got to get going. Because you don't know. You definitely lost round 1. You don't know about round 2 because that's a coin flip either way. You cannot afford to lose round 3. I mean, hopefully your coach has told her that. Even if it's 1-1, you still can't afford to lose round 3. But you just got to be some uncertainty to say, hey, we might be down 2-0. We really can't afford to lose this round. And because you don't know, you got to expend a little more energy. But Fior's still doing a good job on the outside. Landing jabs every time Blanchfield comes in. And you're starting to see the wear and tear a little bit on Blanchfield. And the crowd's kind of quiet. No excitement right now. You got some whistles and individual yells and screams, but no collective group chanting USA anymore. really getting behind Blanchfield. She's gonna need something to swing the momentum in her direction. And just a highly interesting fight because Blanchfield has fought so well already, but you just got to keep in mind that she's only 24 years old. Right? They both had about the same amount of fights, but Fiorot is 34, and she's right at that prime of her strength. Like, the time is now for her. Blanchfield will be here 4 years from now, one would think. Manon beginning to pull away again. Insignificant strikes now 81-68. Where Blanchfield was kind of closing the gap. Fiorot looked really good here in round 3. There's the tap. And I think Blanchfield's in big trouble, and I think our main event losing streak is going to continue if something doesn't change. And man, I'm starting to think about 4-7. That just caused me to, that'd just be terrible for us. 4-7 on the year. And I'm not going to go into the last 3 years' records, right? Because we've done that several times. Like, the records were ridiculous, and now all of a sudden we're 4-6. 4-6. It's ridiculous, man. Let me jump into the live stream. See who's weighing in. Rusty Maverick. I was watching MMA Guru, but switch to your live stream. You were much better at commentating, dude. Great job. Well, that's an easy matchup. You know, MMA Guru is good at some things, but I'll definitely give myself the credit on the commentating part. Vincent is a contender. Top 5 most variables in sports, says Anderson Tyrell. Hamza versus Whitaker. Sensing a decision. Very heavy matchup. Yeah. Rob New Chin, he may destroy Hamza. So you got all that going on. We'll get into that later. Don't worry about it. Because you know we highly disagree. Hamza beats everybody, baby. Come on. Round 4 underway. Manon starts it out with a combination. And if you're coaching Manon, it's easy. You just keep doing what you're doing. Have a countdown in your head. Every time you land, within 4 seconds, you got to land again. And you win this fight. Erin's starting to look like she needs to be more aggressive, which is she does. Her coaches should be telling her in between rounds 3 and 4 before this round that you got to get in there and start fighting. I mean, you got to make this, you got to be in the telephone booth, in the pocket, trading. You can't, the in and out is not working because Manon's going to catch her every time she comes in. And now Blanchfield's being more aggressive. You're starting to see it. She's picking up. And she's landed a few shots here in succession. She's got Manon Fiorot running a little bit. Fiorot tries to tie up. She can't. And this is enough to get the crowd back into it a little bit. Little momentum swing. And here we go. And who's to say Manon doesn't get tired, right? You got to keep the pressure on. And you're starting to see that from Blanchfield. It was like, let me pick my point. You know, I'm being aggressive, but let me get in and get out. But the problem is every time you go to get in the pocket with Fiorot, you're taking jabs. You're taking combinations. Like, you can't keep doing that. You just got to make a decision. Hey, I'm going to get in there. I'm going to go ahead and take my lick on the way in, and then we're going to be swinging on the inside. Because if I go back out, then I got to take another punch on the way in. And Fiorot attempts to pick up Blanchfield and just shoves her off. It's like, forget about it. Didn't work good last time. And Blanchfield definitely trying to keep the pressure on, chasing Manon Fiorot. through round 4 so far. You're starting to see the sense of urgency pick up. And even with a strong, even if Blanchfield won round 4 and 5, it would then come down to round 2, which was so close that who knows how this fight would turn out, because Blanchfield could be down 3-0 right now, easily. So I think I'm telling Erin, like, in the corner, as her coach, it's getting to the point where you may need a finish. And when we made this pick for Blanchfield, we didn't know that she was fighting in front of the home crowd, because, you know, you got a 2 versus 3. You think it's going to be sort of more neutral. But instead, they give Blanchfield the opportunity to fight in New Jersey. That if Fiorot wins this fight, she's a legitimate title contender, which she already is, but she's fighting for the title. She wins this fight and would deserve it, because it's like you're literally going on the road to get a win over one of the best in the division, not named Shevchenko, and obviously champion Grasso. And it's probably good if you're Manon Fiorot, right? You don't have to fight Shevchenko. You get to go right to Grasso. And to me, that's a better matchup. But I'm not giving up on Blanchfield yet. Plenty of time left in this fight, 5.5 minutes. Final 30 seconds of round 4. And as I told you, we're prepared. I've already mentally prepared myself before this fight that it's going to go 5 rounds. And that seems to be what it's looking like. Final 15 seconds, round 4. Blanchfield lands a nice right, but still in and out, and taking punches on the way in. So Fiorot continues to pull away, 127 to 104 in significant strikes. It's amazing. Both fighters over 100, putting on a show. Head strikes even worse, 103 to 70. So, all right, let's see what the corner's saying. Tell her you need to finish. Yeah, some basic instructions, but you got to tell Erin, hey, this is the reality of the situation. Because sometimes in fighters' heads, in a situation like this, Erin's probably thinking, like, I'm close and I might even be winning. And that's where the coach has got to come in and say, no, you're not. You're down 3-1. And maybe her corner did tell her that, because we couldn't hear everything. But you got to be real with Erin Blanchfield. You need a finish, and we need you to get a finish before we fall to 4-7. Not cool. Not cool, man. Blanchfield with a stiff jab. And lands a leg kick. And that throws off Fiorot momentarily, but, you know, it just goes right back to Blanchfield got a battle to get into position. In order for her to get within striking distance, she's got to take a punch. So it's just a very tough fight for her right now. And when you look at these stats later, you're going to see maybe a minute of control time out of 25 potential minutes in this fight. You're going to see both fighters over 100 significant strikes. Maybe over 100 head strikes apiece. Right now it's 110 to 80. Blanchfield slips, she gets back up. 110 gone in round 5, final round. The area where Blanchfield is leading is in body strikes, and that's not going to do anything on the judges' scorecards. And every second that clock moves down, it's advantage Fiorot. And if Blanchfield is in the fight, if it is close and she squeaks out round 5 and ends up getting a victory, I mean, she's going to win this fight getting dominated in 2 different rounds and winning 3 that are very, very close rounds. And although possible, that's not probable. It just seems to me like one of the judges, or maybe 2, are going to give Fiorot one of those other rounds. And Fiorot probably has a 90% chance to win right now. 2:30 left, final round. And during this losing streak or debacle that has been this year's main event for us in terms of picks, they just haven't been easy. I mean, there's been fights that have just gone to decisions. Even in one fight, our fighter dominated for 2 rounds, and it just fell apart in rounds 3, 4, and 5. Like, you just don't know how these things are going to turn out. And Fiorot continues to maintain a 20 strike lead on Blanchfield. Right now it's 154, 155 to 131 as this clock trickles down. 127 to 88 in head strikes. And Erin's still landing. She's going to need something big here. 120 left, round 5. And there's an aspect to being a fighter that in your mind, you're not losing. Even if everyone else can watch the fight and see, hey, you're losing this fight. In a fighter's head, they're in it, man. They're in a fight. They don't think they're necessarily losing, even if the coach tells them so. Now Manon just holding on, back against the fence. Now they break free. Manon with a flying knee nearly connects. Blanchfield coming in. She takes a right. Now a leg kick. And man, Manon's just going to cruise to victory here, I guess. Dang. Blanchfield can't do a darn thing about it. Now they're swinging down the stretch. Final 5 seconds. Both fighters landing a left. Blanchfield with a combination at the bell. And that'll do it. Both fighters putting their hands up, but Manon Fiorot going to the ground. And she knows, I'm fighting for a title. And she's got a legitimate chance to win. It wasn't pretty, but it was a tough fighter. As we await the decision now, 164 to 140 for Fiorot in significant strikes, 134 to 97 in head strikes. She only trailed in body strikes, 31-19. So, and it just seemed to me that there's for sure 2 rounds that Manon Fiorot easily won. Like, it's not a question. The only way Blanchfield wins this fight is if the refs just say, hey, you won rounds 2, 3, and 5. And we need to see the numbers round by round. I wish they would put those up. We haven't seen those yet. I should have been tracking it myself. But Fiorot took a lead in round 1. They kind of came back closer in terms of the striking in round 2, and then Fiorot just continued to separate herself the rest of the way. Yep, so head strikes 134 to 97. Distance strike accuracy, Fiorot 40%, Blanchfield 27. And that was the difference of the fight, really. That distance. It's going to be unanimous. 50 to 45, not even close, man. Not even close. Manon Fiorot gets the win. And we lose again. We lose again. Not even close. 5-0. Incredible. 15-0 when you look at all three or combine all three judges' scorecards. Blanchfield didn't even get around. Even more of a reason for her corner to be telling her you need to finish. But it didn't happen. Manon Fiorot gets the win. She's going to move to 12-1 here in the women's flyweight division, in line to fight for the title against Alexa Grasso. More on that. This fight went down. UFC Atlantic City. Listen, it's been a great night. The big three, as always, didn't let down. We had 2 finishes. Well, 2 decisions, really. But the Weidman fight looked like a finish. It ended up being a unanimous decision. So it is what it is. But Manon Fiorot gets the job done at the top of the card. And a highly anticipated fight all week gives her a potential title fight against Alexa Grasso. For now, as always, this is your boy Chris Cross. I hope you have a great day and God bless. Peace.